Sunken Temple and Phase 3 is amazing. Let's check this out.
Shrek, Every Warrior, Dragons and Adventure, the complete vacation package sponsored by Agron and the Sod development team.
Yeah.
Welcome to Sunken Temple.
So everybody is saying Sunken Temple will be the one.
Iconic and most forgotten dungeons in World of Warcraft, and also one of the most hated. I mean, who doesn't want to delve into Hakkar, the Blood God sex dungeon, deal with its winding corridors, its multiple floors, your party members constantly getting lost, and you spending 2 hours to complete this god-awful experience. Getting a group together for this place was a nightmare after the leveling experience was done, and it was a place you ran a handful of times for quests and then promptly never touched again.
Okay, like, I'm not gonna lie, man. Okay, I do have my problems with Sunken Temple, as some of you guys may know. But I do think it's actually a good dungeon. It is one of the dungeons that really feels like a dungeon. You're going in, there's mystery stuff, like there's some puzzles around, like multiple layers. It's really cool. But I do have bad memories with the dungeon, right? So that's another thing, right? Just seal the hole first. Yeah. Seal the hole. I've heard it before, okay? Cannabis, thank you for the 7 months. Come on.
Its epic weapon was quite honestly dog shit. As far as this dungeon design went, it's a basement within a basement located in a swamp located in Azeroth's armpit. When Cataclysm revamped the world, they literally made it so you skipped to literally the last part of the dungeon and only had to do, in quotation marks, the not so bad part of it. They literally scrapped over half the dungeon. Even the revamped version of this place wasn't good. And it's precisely because of that Shrek's vacation home is being brought to our attention in Season of Discovery. As much as I wanted Scarlet Monastery and Sally Whitemane's thighs to take a heavier place in my life and around my head, it looks like we're going to Dagobah? However you say it.
I will say though, man, I think Scarlet, I don't know, a Scarlet Monastery, like a Scarlet Crusade raid could be fun. But please don't make it Scarlet Monastery, okay? I've seen those walls way too much, okay? Like, I've literally, like, lived in those halls for, like, many hours. But I do think some sort of a Scarlet raid would be really cool, though. Yeah, like a Hearthglyn, or, like, some sort of a Tyr's Hand, or something like that could be sick, right?
Except there is no Yoda, just trolls. Unless you consider Hakkar and Yoda to be... You know what, never mind. Getting back on track, Season of Discovery seems to be of the mind to revamp the least liked places in classic WoW and give it some limelight. Make it an experience you have to enjoy and make it an actually enjoyable experience for the most part. And what's the least done dungeon in the level 40 to 50 range? It's not Zul'Farrak, or Maraudon, or Blackrock Depths.
That's a good dungeon.
It's the Temple of Atal Hakkar, otherwise and commonly known as the Sunken Temple. And it's essentially all but confirmed that it's going to be the level up raid for Phase 3, which is both beautiful and tragic all the same. Because
we don't know for sure, but
I have many memories about Sunken Temple.
Oh god. Oh no, dude.
Like running Sunken Temple during TBC back in the day, wasting 6 hours in there, my group falling apart and never actually finishing it. Now, was that the game's fault? No. It's because most of us had no idea what we were doing back then. It's beautiful because we get to actually make use of a dungeon that's a do once and forget location and actually breathe life into it. It's terrible because it's honestly a terrible place to be. The design, winding pathways, honestly unfun experience, and just atrocious loot make it a miserable place to be in. But most of that terrible design can and will be removed from the game to make Sunken Temple a not so miserable experience and actually a fun level up raid to run. Well, they need to make it fun because ST is an unfun place.
I don't hate Sunken Temple this much, okay? I don't think it's as bad as he's saying it is. I think it's actually a really cool raid. I'm gonna disagree with that. I do think it's really sick. I do think people get tired of running it. I think it's not good if you have to farm it over and over again. Like, I don't want to, like, run Sunken Temple and then do another Sunken Temple. But I have no issue just doing a full run of it and clearing it all. So, the problem with making it into a raid, I guess, is trying to turn it into a thing that you would run consistently, right? So, yeah, it's fun doing it once. Yeah, that's what I think so, too, right? But we might run into some issues if it's becoming a raid, right? Because you might have to remove a little bit of the tedious... stuff about the dungeon if it is to be a 20-man raid, because I think it is going to be a 20-man raid if they are choosing this to be the raid, right? The zombies that die and turn into ghosts and no one knew to move. Oh, you mean before the one boss? Yeah, that's pretty ass too. If it becomes a raid, everybody will be sick of it really fast, no matter what. I mean, we're WoW players, you know. We're meant to be in misery.
All the changes they do have to make it a better experience for the player base.
Yeah.
Now, before we actually dive into how and where they will change Sunken Temple, many of you will be asking for proof, since in my last video, many of you were calling me out, some of you taking my theory crafting so personally that I think some of you may have popped blood vessels. Nonetheless, data mining has revealed that Sunken Temple meets all the metrics and designs that Black Fathom Deeps and Nomerigan received. Sunken Temple now has a 3-day lockout, which essentially has 100% confirmed that Sunken Temple is the next level up raid, and its lock ID is quite literally 23,
it's the same.
Whereas BFD was 21 and Noma was 22. So those two little pieces of information have all but confirmed Sunken Temple. Could the developers be trolling us and ST stand for suck these nuts? Yes. Will they?
Okay.
No. The level up raid for phase 3 is Sunken Temple. So with all that information out of the way, and a quick thank you to the data miners who make it so we don't get any surprises, let's dive right into Sunken Temple and how
what will WoW be without all the data mining, boys? Oh my gosh.
it will change to become a phenomenal raid. So first things first, Sunken Temple is located in the Swamp of Sorrows, a place so forgettable the only saving grace is Sunken Temple, which isn't much of a saving grace. The Horde has Stoneard to fly in from, and the Alliance have to make their way through Deadwind Pass from Dustwood to get there. But just like how the Horde had a teleporter for Nomerigan, we can probably expect the Alliance to get a somewhat faster way to get to Sunken Temple.
Maybe,
they might not, which would mean that there will be a lot of bitching on the forums, so they probably will. Now,
I mean, they do have the flying path to Blasted Lands. I guess Horde has Stoneard and an Alliance has Blasted Lands. I don't think it's that bad, but maybe people want like a direct portal to it, I suppose.
Sunken Temple has 6.5 bosses. Atal Ilarion, the Atalai mini-bosses being the 0.5, Jamalan the Prophet, Weaver and Dreamscythe, Hazaz and Morphaz, and then finally the Shade of Aranicus. But that's only 5.5 because the 6th boss is none other than the Blood God Hakkar. Well, actually, it's the avatar of Hakkar.
Oh, yeah, that one.
He just failed to load properly, so we're fighting a what if of him. Now that we know the bosses, let's proceed with the tour that nobody asked for, but I'm giving you anyway. Okay. Once you actually get into the instance, you're greeted with two paths. You have to take the lower one first and head into the Pit of Refuse, which is home to the first boss, Atal Ilarion, a hulking brute of a troll who is spawned only when you complete the puzzle where everyone in your group must click the shrines in order, and a very specific order at that one. This little dance is typically a headache for dungeon groups, and someone inevitably fucks up, meaning that you have to start from the beginning. After you're done with it, Atal Ilarion spawns in the center, so you then make your way down and begin the fight. Atal Ilarion, like most dungeon bosses, didn't have a lot of mechanics because back when vanilla came out, most content had to be easier because 90% of the player base was playing on 10 FPS and 300 MS. Nonetheless, like all level up raids, the bosses will get a lot of touch-ups, especially since we are now going from not just 5-man to 10-man content, we are going from 10-man to 20-man content. Aside from having a lot of health and smacking for a ton of damage, as well as an aggro clearing ability, his only other ability is his knockback, which sends people flying high into the air who then take a lot of fall damage. But it's still an easy fight, so expect his abilities to be amplified. Atal Ilarion will likely be a tank swapping fight, meaning that the two tanks will need to constantly be on top of things to catch the boss as the other tank has the aggro reset. Probably throw in some adds and perhaps a few extra mechanics like an AoE stun, so melee have to dive out and then back in. Yet Atal Ilarion is only the first boss, so once we've cleared the Pit of Refuse, you have to make your way back up into the starting area, and from there you have to go through the other pathway leading towards the Pit of Sacrifice. Now this pathing sounds a lot simpler than it actually is. I'm just not going to bother explaining.
Dude, I always get lost, man. Like, I don't know what it is about Sunken Temple. I know it's probably simple, but I always get lost.
Left, right, up, down, like a Tekken street fight. So once you get to the Pit of Sacrifice, instead of having to activate 6 shrines this time, you'll have to kill 6 troll minions.
That was me. What? Hi. That was me.
To kill 6 troll mini bosses, the Atalai defenders,
I'm gonna be
who
up
are a
here.
little stronger than regular elite mobs. In the case of a 20-man raid, I expect these 6 mobs to perhaps get turned into a new boss or an amalgamation of little bosses. I'm not sure exactly what they'll do, but do expect these mobs to become something greater. Then we have Jamalan the Prophet, and
I think all those dragons have a lot of potential for sure to make some cool stuff, and this boss will be fun. Because there's that mechanic with the mind control and everything like that. If they turn this into a raid, I think like there could be a lot of cool shit with that, right? Like someone gets mind controlled, you need to maybe drag them somewhere or tank them or something like that. That'd be a fun thing. I really hope they add an orc skeleton exactly where you fell. Bro, Come on, dude.
Sidekick of the Wretched. Not gonna lie, if my boss had a cool moniker like Prophet and the one I got was the Wretched, I'd do some wretched things to my boss.
Yeah.
Jamalan has a few abilities and some really nice loot. We can expect his abilities to be amplified and Agam the Wretched to be more than somebody we shank on the side before actively fighting Jamalan. And much like Atal Valerian, this will be a 2-tank fight with one of the tanks holding Agam and the other
That's mind controls and stuff.
which, as you guys can see, is the theme of this whole level up raid. It's going to be all about 20-man content and utilizing a proper raid team composition.
Yeah, probably a lot of tank swapping and stuff. Do we know for sure this will be the next raid? Well, we don't know for sure, but a lot of hints or a lot of stuff is hinting towards it being true, because they found a lot of like similar files in the raid IDs and stuff like that. That's basically the exact same as No More Again and BFD. So it's kind of confirmed, but not really, you know.
We might even
but then there is no official post from Blizzard saying Sunken Temple, if that's what you mean by confirmed.
At 3 tanks? Probably not, but it could be something they do. Because the bosses right after Jamalan are Weather and Dreamscythe, who, guess what? Yep, a 2 boss fight in 1. And I'm quickly going to bring up the next boss after those 2, because after we defeat Pair of Twins 1, we have to defeat Pair of Twins
Another
2,
one, yeah.
Khazars and Morphaz. Now these 2 spawn in the hallway right outside the Chamber of the Dreamer. And all 4 of these dragons share the exact same abilities, Wing Flap and Acid Breath.
Yep.
The tanks just tank them against
There's
the
a lot of
wall,
room,
and it's
though,
a tank
so
and
that's
spank.
good.
They will get a lot more abilities and utility in the level up raid because they'd be too easy otherwise. Though when you consider that the first 4 bosses of the previous 2 level up raids were also really easy, and only the last boss of the last 2 level up raids had any difficulty, perhaps not outlandish to think that they'll remain easy. Now,
I think the Jamal boss will be hard. I don't know, I have a feeling if they actually make it into a raid, the Jamal guy will probably be one of the big like stopping points of like people progressing, I would say. They're picking the worst dungeons in WoW to be the raid, so naturally it would be Sunken Temple. I don't think it's that horrible, but I guess compared to Sulfarak and like Maraudon and BRD, yeah, perhaps it's not that great, right?
we go on to the original end boss of Sunken Temple, the Shade of Aranicus. Now, the Shade has a lot of abilities, and when they scale it up for a raid format, add personal responsibility into the mix, this fight will be the absolute bane of many guilds and camps.
Probably.
Aranicus has a War Stomp, an AoE stun, Deep Slumber, which puts the highest aggro target to sleep, Thrash, which hits the tank really hard, and Acid Breath, which everyone needs to avoid. To summarize, imagine if Calorus and Akumai mighty morphed into a new boss called Aranicus. Now we head to the final and optional extra boss of Sunken Temple, the desiccated corpse of Hakkar. He's in his own wing, the Sanctum of the Fallen God, but before you can summon him, you have to have an item to summon him, which is a questline. And the item to summon him is not just a questline, it's a really long questline. So I'm not sure if they're going to keep the questline that makes him summonable, or if he's just going to be in the instance from the get-go. Thanks to Wowhead, you can read the entire questline right here, but I am curious what they'll do for this in particular. The boss itself doesn't really have any real abilities, except for cause insanity, which is just...
This is like an ad fight, basically. Like, you gotta kill a mob and then extinguish the fire. But they could probably make it really fun. Like, have it actually be a fun ad fight. Like a big cleave fight like that. Like the Menagerie in No More Again. That'd be kind of cool. We don't need the quest line, no way. Yeah, I highly doubt that.
The CC and ignore situation. He does have a wind-up roleplay similar to Grubbers, where you have to kill ads, pick up the Hakkari blood, and then extinguish all the braziers. So the avatar of Hakkar will get a complete rework into something genuinely fearsome and formidable. I'm not going to try to predict what that'll be. Just expect that you're going to get a lot of cancer. Moving on to loot, Sunken Temple actually has some really good loot. It's not phenomenal in the grand scheme of things, but it's good loot. And I'm excited to see how they take all of that good loot and
it doesn't really matter if it's good though, because they can just change all the items and make them good. You know, so there will be good items from here regardless, right? Thank you, Tigrex, for the 12 months, by the way. They've been pushing questing hard. That's true. I mean, there might be like some sort of a big quest chain that requires you to maybe summon it. That could be true, but I don't know if they would require you to do a quest to summon the boss. But maybe you're right. Imagine there's a bonus boss if you fall into the hole earlier and it's your hardcore character. Dude, I'm just... in a way, like, I'm excited for Sunken Temple because I like it, but I just know every single time I would go into the raid, there would be someone in chat. Don't fall into the hole, Guzu. watch out, there's a hole in the middle. You know, like, it's gonna be every time, man. Like, it's gonna be every single time, man.
Make it drastically better. Noma had an insane 100+ items added
Show
to
your
it. But
mouse
with the
pad.
raid size increasing to 20 man, they will likely have to double up to 200 or so items that can drop. Since more players means more mouths to feed, so you know the drill. The final point to cover is quests, and Sunken Temple has a lot of them.
They
the
do,
Alliance
actually.
has 2 exclusive quests, and the
I do wonder if they're gonna do something about the class quests for, like, you know, Diamond Flask and like all those random items you can get. They're probably gonna be revamping them in some sort of a way where, like, you're gonna get something new from them, right? What happens to Warrior Quest Trinket? Oh yeah, I was actually just talking about that, Kima. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess we'll see.
has 3, with there being
I'll
5
link it in a
neutral
moment,
quests
GD.
that both factions can pick up. On top of that, every class's level 50 class quest is inside Sunken Temple.
Yeah.
So expect maybe a buff to your class items at Sunken Temple being redone and
Probably.
remastered. Or maybe not at all. We'll find out soon enough. Now that we've covered everything though, I can say that Sunken Temple, for all its downs, and there's a lot of them, is actually prime real estate to create a massive and exciting raid experience.
Yeah,
there are
I think so.
very few locations as despised and unfun as Sunken Temple, so I'm excited for this massive change and for phase 3. And in terms of PvP, which I haven't forgotten about, it does look like we'll simply get more things added to the Stranglethorn Vale PvP event.
Okay.
Perhaps more Hakkar related things, and maybe a few things to tie into Arathi Basin. I can't say for sure that they won't add a whole new PvP event zone, but if they do, it looks like it'll have to be Hinterlands to tie all the troll stuff together. So expect an expanded upon STV event with perhaps more loot and more things to spend your gold and your STV blood tokens on. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe and like to support
Yes, we'll see
more
what they do with
extensive
that.
copium by yours truly. Thank you all for watching. Ebenhard out.
Cool video. I mean, yeah, I don't know what you guys are thinking about it. I know everybody always says though, like, they want to see like BRD, and I do agree. Like, seeing an actual BRD rate would be really sick. You know, that would be really, really dope. I mean, they also have like a bunch of doors and like stuff like that in the BRD dungeon that's, you know, not open, like the one behind Baelgor, for instance. There's a big door, but I'm just worried that they would like because BRD is already a really good dungeon, right? So it's gonna be a hard, tough battle to make the raid actually good, and it might even be too big, you know. But I don't know. I think that I think Sunken Temple has a good potential for sure to make a good raid.